Good morning. How are you guys? Sometimes you just gotta take the time to relax. It's a nice, chill morning. Good morning, guys.
The moment at hand, this very moment, is the best of
In
our
the year
lives.
2000, the internet was not just a digital portal to another world, but an opportunity for people to express their visions for what the future should be in ways that were once impossible. Despite brief global panic of a potential apocalypse, this online technology was only getting stronger.
Good morning,
Thanks to
everybody.
cascading style sheets, JavaScript, and even Flash Media, among
How's
other
everyone
things,
doing? Happy
it
Friday.
seemed the only limit was the screen itself. With the new year, new century, new millennium, we could finally, truly create the world that we always wanted. This spirit and attitude manifested in ways that really made 2000 a special year for the internet. It was both the death of many archaic online practices, but also the birth of ones we still take for granted today. Now you could get your news, socialize, do your shopping, share your art, make poor investment decisions, and even steal, all from just one place. It was clear that the internet was no longer becoming just a novelty, but rather a very real part of the world with real-life ramifications, and in one way or another, they were about to be felt. We're gonna talk about it all, the good, the bad, the very ugly, by dialing into what was undeniably a turning point in online culture.
Did you know that you can play games on the net?
Did
That's
you
right.
know
And it's never
you
been
can play
easier.
games on
So
the
easy
net?
that you can even play it on your cellular device. Millennium is looking stellar, man. But why live in the future when you could live in the past with all the heroes of history? It is a city building and hero collection game, allowing you to build your own civilization starting in the Stone Age and advancing in technology as you go. Wow! As someone who loves being a control freak and telling everyone what to do, I just get so much joy moving around my little minions and having them build me farms, expand territory, and even research me new technologies. And as you're building your own world, you can even get help from time-traveling companions, such as Tesla and Einstein. I was gonna tell you a time travel joke, but you guys didn't like it. Huh, and you can activate your own 4-star hero by earning 40,000 gems or around 10 hours of gameplay. And you can also receive one if you choose to purchase the starter pack. And you can even play with other people over high-speed lines with the Heroes of History's PvP fights. These are available from the Minoan era, with PvP seasons lasting around a week and even allowing you to challenge your personal best in rankings.
I
Sounds
remember
all
those
that in
good
a
old
bag of
internet-
chips. Sign
good
me
old
up.
internet
Well, it
days.
just so happens that you can in fact sign up today. Use my link on the screen and enter my promo code to unlock your first 5-star hero. That's right. 5 stars. This is an option only available for new players. Come on, man. Time's ticking. You gotta do it before the 2000 switch sets all our clocks back to zero. Einstein and Tesla can't help you with that. So go ahead and join
I'm
me in
wicked
Heroes of
jealous
History.
of the talent these
Now, of
guys
course,
have.
the year 2000 in technology
making
didn't
these
exactly
videos.
start off all peachy. There
I
certainly were
tried.
people excited for
I'd have
the
to do
new
more
millennium
practice.
and what kind of things it would bring, but much of it was briefly overshadowed by predictions of a possible doomsday event that would strike New Year's Day due to a massive computer bug. It was known as Y2K. Now, I already did an
Welcome,
entire video
everybody.
on Y2K several internet centuries ago, but in short, computers, up until the 90s, were often programmed to log calendar dates with the last 2 digits of a year rather than all 4. So a computer would read 99
Hope you're
instead
having a
of
good morning.
1999. When it would become the year 2000, this would of course read as 00. Since 00 is smaller than 99, the computer would not think it's the year 2000, but instead 1900. This would essentially confuse the entire system and cause massive errors in typical calculations, such as bank interest, business deadlines, air traffic control systems, and so on. On a global scale, this could cause catastrophic failure, with some even predicting power grids shutting off, prison gates unlocking, and even nuclear weapons launching themselves.
Yay,
This
doomsday.
created an entire scare among the public,
Ooh.
with many people even stocking up on supplies and preparing doomsday bunkers.
There it is.
While much of the Y2K bug and its impact was sensationalized by the media, it was by no means just a doomsday hoax. It was in fact a real problem that was avoided in time, thanks to global efforts and government initiatives that allowed for this programming oversight to be fixed on most machines that were crucial to everyday life. As a result, the impact of Y2K was rather inconsequential. There were some things that were significantly affected, but nothing strong enough to end the world, obviously. So by the time January rolled around, the Y2K panic quickly died out, and people
was
just went
5
back
years
to their
old
regular routines.
during
For many,
Y2K.
that included making more contributions to this internet technology to make it an even better, more powerful place. Now, at face value, the internet in 2000 still looks quite similar to how it did back in the mid-90s. However, there had been many significant developments
Don't
since
wanna do
then.
that.
They were mostly just under the hood and, in many respects, would take time to become noticeable on the outside. But when these changes finally expressed themselves, it was a clear night and day difference. You start to see
Oh,
an
yeah.
emergence of this rather three-dimensional, gradient-centric style of design on web pages, and even in the operating systems that complemented them. It was quite a fresh take on the more static, rigid designs of the 90s, but just as influenced by the technology and energy of its time. Just like how much of 90s software primarily focused on simplicity and getting the hang of this new environment, this new Y2K design, as it has been retroactively coined, took advantage of people's newfound familiarity with technology as well as its rapid advancement. Because computer graphics were getting better, people could do more things with it. This gave them the opportunity to not only create a user interface that was easier to
Speaking
navigate
of
because
computer
it
graphics,
resembled
you
more
guys
like real-life
like my live
objects,
stream?
but to also create a clean, idealized version of the worlds they were living in that was even more realistic than ever before. A very popular style that fell under this Y2K umbrella was one called Aqua, a term coined by Apple during the San Francisco Macworld Expo in January of 2000, where they introduced a new operating system they called macOS 10. They called it Aqua because, well, all the gradients and 3D designs that were used made it look like little droplets of water. Now, macOS 10 remained in its beta stages up until its public launch in 2001, but this brilliant innovation in design really demonstrated where things were heading. It was not the sole influence behind this change, but it was certainly part of it. Microsoft's Windows XP would eventually take this approach in 2001 with its iconic Luna design. You then start to see many other web pages take on a similar look. Some fun examples include Matinee, PlayStation, UEFA, and of course, Apple. Now, these stylistic changes were not monolithic and certainly didn't happen overnight. So there were many mainstream websites that took longer to adapt than others and still sported their old, more traditional layouts. That's what I think makes the year 2000 a particularly interesting point in online history. It is in many ways that sort of sweet spot between the old 90s internet and the slow adaptation of the dynamic, broadband, social media era of the internet, or what is also known as Web 2.0. Like we mentioned, these aesthetic changes were facilitated by advancing technology, both in hardware and software. A technology from 1996 known as Flash Media was now starting to get a lot of recognition thanks to a new website that was now gaining immense popularity, a site known as Newgrounds. Although it started in the 90s, its popularity
Oh my
didn't
God,
truly enter
I grew
mainstream
up on
status
Newgrounds.
until around 2000. It was an online community that hosted things like games, films, audio, and so much more.
Oh my God.
People could view
I don't even
and
know if
interact
anybody
with
is
other people's
actually like here
creations,
paying
and
attention.
even upload their own for the world to
But
see.
if
And
you
it could all
are,
be done within the browser. It was Flash technology
where is it?
that made this possible. Now I've already done
I'm gonna pause this because I want to show you guys one of the first YouTube videos. Well, it was on Newgrounds, the first online video I ever watched. On albino black sheep. Yeah, here it is.
Now, first of all, Mr. President, here is a computer-generated simulation of the first aircraft.
Oh, I want to show it. I noticed it crashed.
Wow,
It says it should be working.
It's my lucky day.
What the heck? How strange. Always a bug.
Colliding with the World Trade Center.
Always a bug.
That's the sound of sprouting.
There we go. I'll start over.
Now, first of all, Mr. President, here is a computer-generated simulation of the first aircraft colliding with the World Trade Center. Ooh. And here it is again in false color, representing the heat gradient. Ah. And here it is again, this time in Jamaican colors to demonstrate the cultural diversity of our simulation. Oh. And this time using graphics from popular computer games.
Oh.
And now is a black and white 1930s Looney Tunes cartoon.
Oh.
And here it is in the style of Japanese anime.
And you're eating. I hope it's a yummy breakfast.
Oh, and here's...
I want to see it done with Legos.
What's for breakfast?
Legos. 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 Damn it. Legos. Legos.
Mr. President, are you sick in the head? Show some respect. This is the September 11 tragedy, not some animation extravaganza for your own amusement.
I was like 7 years old when I saw this video. I had no idea what I was watching.
Simulation with graphics made entirely of mugshots of Canadian actor Colin Mockery.
Certainly.
Do-do-do-do. Bu-bu-bu-bu-bu-bu-bu.
Legos. 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 Legos.
Legos.
Legos. Legos. Legos. Legos.
This is such child
okay,
humor.
Mr. President, here's a simulation of the 9/11 tragedy done with Legos.
Look at the little Lego man. No.
Mr. President, the label on the Lego box says, "Not for children under 3 years. Contains possible choking hazard." Possible choking hazard. Oh my God! Cough it up, sir.
Cough it up, sir.
Heimlich maneuver.
I do. Crikey.
Rest in peace, Steve Irwin.
All right, Mr. Lego Man. You wipe that terrorist smile off your yellow belly face and you tell me everything. Who's your leader?
This like jump started my pop
You're
culture.
not gonna talk, huh?
I'm so young.
Well, in that case,
I'm glad you
play
think it's
a
funny.
war on Legos.
The United States announced its war on Legos today and started this campaign by bombing the Danish city of Legoland. This was not
While the Legoland death toll remains at 0, the damage of Legoland itself is climbing into the billions.
I think the whole point is the president can just call war whenever he wants and we'll just go along with it, right? I think that's the irony.
Pictures of naked Lego men forced to partake in humiliating activities on circulating on the internet.
Upskit Creek. Yikes. That's a yikes name. Alright, let's go back to...
An entire video on Flash technology, but this was one of the many driving forces that pushed the internet out of its exclusively static,
I never been,
fixed environment,
but
and allowed for pages to
Florida's
be more
nice this time of year.
lively
It must
and
be
more
nice.
fluid. The internet could
Really
now be
windy
an
where I
even
am.
more convincing extension of the real world. This was further complemented by growing technologies like CSS and JavaScript. These once again started a few years prior, but really started to shine in the year 2000. They effectively acted as the bridge between Flash and HTML, allowing the two to work together harmoniously, and therefore give users the ultimate interactive experience. In other words, you can effectively use JavaScript to make desired changes to a web page in real time, in ways that may fit the Flash media in question. For example, if the website has a shopping cart and you add something to it, it may create a little animation using Flash while using JavaScript to update an item's price. If someone makes a Flash video game where there's an explosion scene, maybe they'll have the windows start bouncing around the screen. Little fun things like that. While it was certainly used as a novelty in many of these situations, it served
Lots
as
of
a
malware,
crucial
too.
component in making the web easier, more efficient, and more exciting.
What is it?
to
I missed it.
use.
Is he talking about
Cascading
Java?
Style sheets, or CSS, were
Oh,
a
CSS.
more indirect contribution to this website fluidity, because it made HTML editing much easier to do, rather than having all the visual attributes of
Speaking
HTML
of HTML editing being way easier to do, vibe coding. Ooh, it's how I made my website.
in one convoluted place full of code, CSS moved it into its own separate file, just dedicated to the design.
I use
rather than
CSS.
being
I don't even know
completely
how it works.
intertwined into the site's functionality. This made editing cleaner and more organized, and even made web pages load faster due to these CSS files being cached by web browsers, which meant that less data had to be transferred over the net long term. These things allowed for more websites to adapt these dynamic setups and become more capable than they ever were before. This was further reinforced by a new growing technology that allowed for more bandwidth to be transferred over the net in less time, a technology called broadband. Now in 2000, the supreme online infrastructure was dial-up, which connected computers to each other through phone lines. This was very convenient at the time because pretty much every household in the developed world had a landline system, so they could just plug and dial in right away. But there were trade-offs. Someone could not use the phone while you were on the internet, and vice versa. And of course, as these complex online technologies started to emerge, the demand for bandwidth began to increase. As a result, internet speed started to feel slower.
Yeah,
and dial-up just couldn't catch
I
up
didn't
with
know
loading
any of
these
the
heavy websites.
programming
Broadband was the solution to
or
this problem, and it was
I don't even know what to call them. What do you scripting languages, right? Python, SQL, and all that. I finally learned like what they're for. I couldn't do it without AI though. Not at all.
slowly starting to gain recognition. It primarily came in two flavors, DSL and cable. Remember that phone lines had way less frequencies to choose from because Well, they were
Back
designed to
back
just
then, on
pick
the
up
early
voices
days of the
because
internet,
that
I
was pretty
played
much the only thing that was needed
Roller Coaster
after almost
Tycoon,
100 years of
so I
use.
didn't need the
But
internet.
the digital subscriber line used more refined versions of these phone lines that could now support more frequencies and bandwidth capacity than before. So now internet access and phone calls could operate simultaneously without interfering with one another, and it could be done faster. But rather than just using phone lines, broadband also used coaxial cables, the same cable that gives you, well, cable television. These cables were made of better materials that allowed for more bandwidth to be transferred at faster speeds and allowed for more frequencies to be used for
Oh, I remember IRC
so not only
chats.
was your internet faster,
Are they still
you could
used?
also watch cable TV while using it. Because the number of households with cable at this time
That was the first,
much
like,
smaller
open
than
source
ones with
chat
phone
room,
lines.
right?
In comparison, it took some time for broadband to take over. The cable was still quickly growing in popularity. It was a huge upgrade in online technology. The internet clearly was showing a lot of promise. People wanted in, both literally and financially. Throughout the end of the 90s, tons of people, including even hedge
I spent a
fund
lot of
traders,
time on the internet when I was a
investing
teenager, and I
insane
became
amounts of money
a
in these
member on a lot of
websites.
private
The second they
private
became public
torrenting
on the
websites,
NASDAQ,
so
they
I can
started
have
treating
like
these websites effectively
download
like
any
stocks,
anime I want and
investing
not
as
be
much
scared
as
of viruses
$5
because it's
trillion
private. But I had to
collectively
like
in them.
go in
This
their
phenomenon would
IRC
eventually
chat and
become
prove
known
that I
as the
understood what
dot-com bubble, and it
codecs
would
were
reach its
and
peak
how
in March
torrenting
of
worked. Like they actually
2000.
like
While
schooled you.
some economists predicted that these crazy high evaluations
The
of
net is
companies
still
that
the Wild
often
West,
operated
yo.
on a
It's just the
computer in someone's
public
bedroom
internet is
wasn't exactly
totally
practical, many chose to
guardrails.
look
There's
the
so
other
much
way
shit on the
or
internet.
just
So much
dismiss it
shit
entirely.
stuff.
This time it would be different because something
Like you
the
think you're on the
internet
deep
has
web, but
never
you're
been seen
not.
before. During this peak, many users were just on cloud 9.
But you don't
feeling
know if
like
it's
the
AI
millennium
or not
brought the
anymore.
world
That's
an
what
internet
sucks.
that could just not get
Back in
any
the day,
better.
you'd see a
They were
crazy page
ultimately
and you wouldn't even have to
as
think
this
about it. You'd be like, oh, this
dot-com
dude's
bubble
nuts.
would eventually burst.
Now you're just like, is
Turns
this
out,
AI?
These online companies could not return profits that justified the amount of money that people invested into them. So investors either pulled out or these companies ended up somehow spending all that money.
Why does
A great
Yandex
example of this
sound so
was
familiar?
Pets.com, an online pet store.
I don't
Despite
use it, I
receiving
guess.
insane amounts of money from investors, much of that money was spent on marketing and operating costs, and it could not generate
I probably
enough
watch
profit
watch
to make up
YouTubers who
for
use it.
Because after all, why buy pet supplies online that take several days
What
to
is it,
ship
like
and
Tor?
arrive in the mail when you could just go to your local pet store and get those same supplies that very same day? Naturally, these .coms started going under. Investors saw the nosedive and began to panic sell, which then made matters even worse. The end results were absolutely devastating for the stock market. Some people lost
This
their
is what we're
entire life
going through
savings
with AI
as a
right now,
result.
guys,
It
and
was
it's
so
really
bad.
not any different. Actually, the ChatGPT situation is a little different. They kind of fucked themselves. They had the worst bubble. But the idea is, like, I'm making AI stuff all the time now. The reason why it's a bubble is because people are selling the most simple things, but people don't know how to make it themselves. But over time, they'll realize, why the fuck am I paying so much money for this basic AI thing if I can just make it myself with Google's Gemini? So people are out there making the simplest things and selling them for like subscription fees right now. And like that's a big part of the bubble. It's very similar to the .com bubble. This is just what I noticed. I don't have any data for this. I just feel it. The data I have is seeing all the software services that are trash. Like you can just make them yourself. It's everywhere now.
That even some of the top websites in the world at the time significantly suffered.
Why is it weird
and
for you to
never
hear it?
ended up fully recovering from it. This included AOL's disastrous Time Warner merger and Yahoo's overevaluation and overinvestment into other .coms. There were even websites dedicated to listing out all the sites that failed, such as the parody of Fast Company.
Wow, Russian lets their citizens go uncensored. That's cool.
I like the name. Despite many aspects
Why
of the
do they
internet
ban all these
experiencing
American
great
websites then?
innovation and overall optimism, the public's faith in it quickly started to change. It wasn't necessarily that people were less trustful of the internet as a technology, but rather in how it was currently being used. That was what needed to change. This major event, along with the other things we just talked about, like Flash Media, CSS, and JavaScript, is what contributed to the internet's eventual transformation into Web 2.0.
They did once when they started Ukraine. The only reason I know is because I had Russian friends. I was playing an online video game, and he said he couldn't access certain things for a while.
Reason for people to return to them. With Yahoo
That was at the
now
very
lagging
beginning of the
behind,
war.
A new, much more innovative
The
search
Ukraine
engine
war.
called Google enters the picture, and within a couple years would eventually become the most visited website. Another thing that brings people back to a website
When they wanted
is
their citizens
we are
to
very sociable
back it up. I
creatures,
don't know what
and
the
so
fuck
in
they're doing now.
2000, people-centric websites like Diary X,
But they
Friends
tried to
United,
censor us
and
for.
DeviantArt
It
were
was less
server
about
communities that
censorship.
would
I
act
think
as
they
early
did censor,
examples
but it was
to what
more
would
about
soon be
money.
known
They
as
knew
social media.
they'd
Now,
be
this
cutting off
concept was
our
not
revenue.
necessarily new in 2000.
But I think
You could
YouTube was a
argue
big one they
that the
banned
dot-com bubble
at the
was
beginning
the
of it.
catalyst that brought it to immense popularity throughout the rest of the
You're making me
decade.
want to Google it.
Because
I don't want to be
despite
wrong.
all the craziness, people knew the internet was not going anywhere, and they used it to their advantage, even in ways that were legally questionable. It is this same year that a website called Napster is gaining insane popularity. Although it launched the year prior, it is in 2000 when it really starts taking off. That's because it allowed you to download pretty much any song you wanted for free. What was incredibly innovative about Napster was that it basically hosted content all across the internet through something called peer-to-peer file sharing. Instead of having all the songs hosted on
Yeah.
one website, you would instead just
They only did
download
it for like
from
2 weeks, and it
another
was
Napster
it was
user's
more of an
computer.
embargo
And
than a
that could be
censorship.
thousands of them with the same song.
So it was like a
This made it
censorship
much
by
more
proxy.
difficult for companies to take this content down. And so Napster continued to
But they
rapidly
censor
grow
their own
as
citizens a
piracy
lot.
tool.
They
By
censor
2000, it
political
was basically a part of mainstream
dissenters.
pop culture, even
I'm
being
I'm reading an
referenced on
article
television.
right now. It says well, it's just a headline. But Russia makes unprecedented censorship. It says that they censor all their independent journalists. And they just admit it. Now is the time of military censorship. Yes, they just admit it. So I bet they block the biggest shit talkers.
I like this whole sharing thing. Hey, boy!
So you were Napster. I was the torrent crowd that came
But
after.
eventually things
Well,
did catch up
LimeWire
to
too,
them,
but
and
I did
Napster
torrent
was shut down in 2001.
because I like
But
listening to
its
music and
innovation
albums.
influence throughout its lifetime
I
did
can't
not
do
go
the
unnoticed,
songs
and
and
it most certainly
shuffle.
was not in vain.
So
This P2P protocol that the program popularized would end up being incorporated into legal applications, such as Skype, which used it to more effectively transmit
I feel like
computer
I missed
calls.
what this is
And of
talking
course,
about. I'm
as
gonna rewind a
bandwidth
little bit.
access got better, programs like LimeWire and Kazaa could argue that the dot-com bubble was the catalyst that brought it to immense popularity throughout the rest of the decade. Because despite all the craziness, people knew the internet was not going anywhere, and they used it to their advantage, even in ways that were legally questionable. It is this same year that a website called Napster is gaining insane popularity. Although it launched the year prior,
I was like
it is in 2000
10 or
when it
11
really
years old
starts
for
taking
Napster.
off. That's because it allowed you to download pretty much any song you wanted for free. What was incredibly innovative about Napster was that it basically hosted content all
Makes
across
sense.
the internet through something called peer-to-peer file sharing. Instead of having all the songs hosted on one website, you would instead just download it from another Napster user's computer, and that could be thousands of them with the same song. This made it much more difficult for companies to take this content down, and so Napster continued to rapidly grow as a piracy tool. By 2000, it was basically a part of mainstream pop culture, even being referenced on television.
I always said,
Whole sharing thing.
if nobody paid for music, people
For a
would
long
still
time,
make music.
It was a game of cat
If
and
no one
mouse,
paid for
but
movies,
eventually things
people would
did
still make
catch up to
movies.
them, and Napster
That's why I
was
don't
shut
feel
down
guilty.
in 2001. But its innovation and influence throughout its lifetime did not go unnoticed, and it most certainly was not in vain. This P2P protocol that the program popularized would end up
Yeah,
being
but it's like a
incorporated
super
into legal
complicated
applications, such
P2P.
as Skype, which used it to more effectively transmit computer calls. And of course, as bandwidth access got better, programs like LimeWire and Kazaa would use P2P file sharing to host things.
LimeWire
beyond
was
just
what all the
music.
kids used
Some
when I
programs would take
I
this
remember.
even further by developing an even more decentralized version of P2P known as BitTorrent, popularized by the application of the same name. The online music scene was briefly a bit drier
That's me,
once
torrents.
Napster was out of the picture, but Apple decided to make a compromise. They decided to create a program that would allow you to rip any number of songs from your CD and put it on your computer. Also, if you wanted to get a specific song
Wait,
that
you're
you
telling me
didn't currently
Apple
own,
invented that?
you could buy that one song for just 99 cents, as opposed to having to buy the whole album.
Yeah,
first.
I never
This
fell for
program
that.
would be
I
released
never
by
understood
Apple
why people
in
buy
January
songs.
of 2001.
I thought that was
a
crazy.
program called iTunes. Very shortly after, they introduced their latest product called the iPod, which would let you carry that music anywhere you went. This is what the year 2000 would eventually bring us. It had its trials and tribulations, but it ultimately showed that the internet and this technology was here to stay. Not only could it withstand virtually
This is my childhood.
anything, but it could learn from it and create something
Well,
even
actually,
better out of
this
it.
ends at the
Whether it
start of
was
my
for better
childhood.
or for worse, things were never going to be the same going forward. And that was going to be an experience that had never been seen and would never be seen again. If you would like to learn all about the most popular website in 2000, Yahoo, I did an entire video about that right here.
Nah, I'm
as well as
good.
related videos
I'm gonna
in the
try to watch a
description.
variety of
A special
things.
thanks to my Patreon supporters. Check out patreon.com/nationsquid.
I wanted to see if this was any good.
This video is made possible by Shopify. Lego is a global super brand. A system of thoroughly standardized building bricks marketed worldwide and controlled meticulously down to the tiniest detail. The once small Danish family workshop long ago grew into the largest toy manufacturer on the planet. A multi-billion-dollar company with decades of nearly non-stop revenue growth. But alongside that success, something else has been growing. Frustration. More and more fans are accusing Lego of abandoning its roots. Overpriced licensed sets. An increasingly aggressive branding policy. An army of lawyers ready to pounce. Color inconsistencies. Declining quality.
Oh man, the Lego nerds are mad.
I get a lot is that Lego keeps increasing prices and decreasing quality.
Needless to say, this set was definitely...
Damn, these Lego nerds are going in.
An all-time high regarding prices.
Is Lego
There's so many of
too
them.
expensive?
How did Lego get so big? And why are they suddenly getting so much hate?
I'm gonna tell you right now, Lego is huge because it's literally it's its own medium of creating. Before Legos, you just use sticks and stuff, right? Or Lincoln Logs. Legos opened up a new element. It's literally a new medium.
Game begin.
Like, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I understand why it's huge. Erector? That sounds dirty. Maybe I shouldn't look at it live.
Lego's story begins here, in a small carpentry workshop in Billund, Denmark. This is Ole Kirk Christiansen. He lives a modest life. He's a father to 4 sons, raising them
Oh,
alone
hell yeah,
since
that's
his
some
wife
sick
died after
marketing,
giving birth
too.
to his youngest.
100 toys
it's
in
the
one.
1930s, during the Great Depression, and life is tough. Business is slow and money tight. But Oli doesn't give up and starts designing wooden toys. His miniature products start to sell, well enough that he ends up shifting his entire business to making them.
Yeah, right.
In 1936,
That's probably why Lego got so big too, is because there were stuff trying to do what Lego was doing, but Lego was the first one to do it right and safe for kids, unless you're a stupid kid who chokes on it.
It's a fitting name for his thriving enterprise. In Danish, "leg godt" means play well, a phrase which ends up becoming Lego. His sons are always at his side, helping out wherever they can. One of them is especially involved, Gottfried. He quickly becomes indispensable. At age 12, he's already keeping the company's books. At 14, he quits school and becomes an apprentice carpenter. Over time, he gets more and more involved in the family business. Then World War II breaks out, but Lego holds up surprisingly well. In dark times like these, children need toys more than ever. In the 1940s, Oli begins experimenting with a new material, plastic. After the war, he buys a British injection molding machine. He's curious what he can do with it and starts playing around. The machine comes with a set of sample pieces, including these stackable building blocks. They were designed by a British toy maker named Hilary Page, founder of the company Kiddicraft. He also holds the right to the design of these studded bricks. Oli is fascinated by them. He makes a few subtle tweaks. He straightens out the rounded corners, flattens the studs on top, and slightly adjusts their size. Then in 1949, he and his family released the first brick set of their own, the so-called automatic binding bricks.
I know a lot about
Oli
the
designed
history
them
of
to be
it.
a well-made, durable, and well-thought-out toy at a reasonable price. Not a luxury item. Since Page's patent only applies in the UK, Oli's set isn't violating any Danish laws. Evidently, Lego took inspiration from toy bricks
Markup
designed
on
by
plastic? What do you
someone
mean?
else. But fast forward 70 years, the company is mercilessly sending cease and
No,
desist
it's the
letters to
brand
anyone
name. If you're
attempting
asking
to
why
do
they're
the
so
same.
expensive.
Passt mal auf. Ich habe einen Brief bekommen.
For this video,
Ain't
we talked to
nobody
German
want no
content creator
Playmobil.
Thomas Panke. He runs a popular YouTube channel about building brick sets and has become
Mega
one of Lego's
Blocks.
fiercest critics. He actually started out as an official Lego retailer. His original logo featured a studded brick silhouette, but when he tried to register it as his own trademark, Lego's lawyers came knocking. A legal battle ensued over his branding and using the word Lego as a generic term for building bricks. He was eventually forced to change his logo and walked away from working with the company. Generally, Lego doesn't want other
That's fucked up.
manufacturers of interlocking plastic toy bricks to use the word Lego to advertise their products. If the name were to become a generic term for these bricks, including
Yeah, I thought
low-quality
plastic
ones,
was cheap.
then that
You're
could
spending
damage the
money
company's
literally for the
reputation.
brand name
Lego
and
might no longer be able to clearly set
maybe
itself apart from its
the
competitors.
talent behind the
Die wollen
designers,
alleine
right?
sein im Markt.
Like what
Und
else?
dann
Nothing
möchtest
else.
du nicht, dass andere auch Lego genannt werden, dass man Gattungsbegriff ist, sondern man möchte die Einzigen sein.
In a worst-case scenario, Lego becoming a generic term could cost the company its trademark protection. So Lego doesn't just go
I
after
see.
YouTubers. They also sue other businesses.
I think if Lego was a generic term, that would be a win for them. They just don't know how to handle it. They're scared. They could just say, yeah, but we are the Lego. Everybody, it's like when Kleenex became the word for tissue, right? Was Kleenex mad? I wouldn't be mad.
A Dutch manufacturer of concrete blocks described its studded block system as comparable to Lego bricks on its website. Lego noticed and sued in 2025, explicitly demanding they stop using the word Lego in connection with their products. The construction company argued that Lego suffered no real damage. After all, no 8-year-old child had ever been spoiled by his parents with a 2,500-kilo concrete block because they had asked for Lego. But a Dutch court eventually ruled in Lego's favor. The construction company can no longer use the name Lego on its website.
Crazy.
Lego is doing everything in their power to protect their brand.
And
Other YouTubers we talked to
Chapstick,
think
same
you can't
thing.
blame them for operating just like any other large company. This might not sit right with some.
This is a
because
huge
they
dragon.
still view Lego as a traditional family business, responsible for cherished childhood memories. But in truth, the company long ago transformed into a global corporation with an appropriately sized legal team. For decades, Lego has fought to control its identity while turning into this empire. It's a dilemma modern founders face too. How do you scale sustainably while staying in control? That's where today's sponsor, Shopify, comes in. Sell where people shop by tagging or linking products with just a few clicks. We personally started using Shopify over 5 years ago. We built the online store of our clothing brand on it, long before they ever approached us to partner, and it was a game changer. We love their dashboard and the amount of digestible data it offers. Their new launch, Sidekick, makes operating our store even easier, and it's great that we can offer Shop
Oops.
Pay. Customers see the purple button, tap once, and they're done. Grow in your own terms with Shopify. If you're ready to get started, go to shopify.com/Fern or scan this QR code. Back to Lego, a now fully fledged, lawyered up megacorp, which hasn't always been like this. By the 1950s, Oli's son Gottfred is taking over more and more responsibility at the company. He officially renames the product Lego Bricks, and he comes up with a groundbreaking idea. Back then, their bricks still looked like this. They're now completely hollow and have these little slits on the side. They can be stacked, but don't actually interlock. Taller towers could still collapse easily. So Gottfred incorporates these little hollow tubes into the brick's underside. On January 28, 1958, he files a patent for the new design. The side slits disappear as well. The Lego brick as we know it today is born. A few weeks later, Gottfred's father Oli passes away. But the founder's death doesn't slow down the family business. If anything, this is the moment Lego really starts taking off. Gottfred pins down the 6 guiding principles of Lego and distributes them to retailers. The toy has to be compact, reasonably priced, and durable. It's meant to be timeless, easily distributed, and suitable for all children regardless of age and gender. The new Lego boxes and building instructions illustrate what you can build, but also encourage alternate builds and creativity. All sets can be combined with each other. The bricks you bought years ago will fit perfectly with the bricks you buy today and those you'll buy tomorrow. Gottfred calls it the Lego system in play.
That's some serious play, yo.
Lego is here. Build hotels, animals.
Yo, I'm working on 2 series at once, guys. So I took a wicked long break from trying to write a lot. I did that on purpose. I made a website. I set up a new computer. And now I'm getting back into writing, and I got 2 series I want to write, and they're both huge. And I'm just like, how my ADHD's like, this is bad. I don't.
Next, he looks for ways to pull kids even deeper into the world of Lego. In 1968, he opens the first Legoland park in Billund. It's a passion project for him and a milestone for the brand. He also expands his vision of Lego's audience. So far, the company has been primarily targeting kids in elementary school. But in 1969, Lego introduces the Duplo variant for younger children.
I can't get past 700 paid subscribers either.
Kids don't need endless amounts of toys.
It's been hard to get more.
They need a compatible system that lets them create new
Not
worlds
writing,
over
so
and over.
I need to
Just
write.
like his father Oli, he focuses on quality and on keeping his products affordable for as many people as possible. Today, many Lego products are expensive. Roughly $280 for this Beauty and the Beast castle, $330
Too much
for
money,
a river
yo.
steamboat, almost $700 for the Titanic.
Hell yeah. I know what you mean.
$850 for the Millennium Falcon. And of course, you can also buy cheaper sets.
I have a marijuana
But the
habit that
bestsellers
makes it
category
really bad
quickly
though
brings you into
sometimes,
triple
but that's my own
digits.
fault.
Lego itself claims that set prices hinge on several factors. On the number of pieces in the set, on how many new molds were required for their forms, and on the cost of licensing characters from other brands and companies. This crawler crane, for example, is a licensed product from the German-Swiss equipment manufacturer Liebherr.
It helps
It's
me
part of the Lego Technic line. Has
explore
2,000
though, like the way that I do writing. I don't see you comment a lot, so I don't know how much of my stuff you've read, but it's all over the place. Not like I'm not being consistent. I think I'm very consistent. The AI helps me with that. I build the AI as I progress through my, you could say, Substack career, right? But oh my God, it's all over the place.
883 pieces and will cost you $700. To be fair, big sets are more expensive, licensed sets even more so. And it's
Like I start by my first article, I talking about the Revolutionary War. The second article, I'm talking about people in the Senate moving to BlackRock. My third article, I'm talking about like how they use the housing crisis to control us from moving around, property taxes. Like, I don't know. I was learning things about our government for the first time, and I wanted to write about it as I learned it. So I made an AI as I did it, and I'm still at that point. But like, I don't learn linearly.
It's also explicitly marketed as for adults. If you break the set down to price per piece, you're paying about 24 cents per element. That ratio isn't the perfect metric. It doesn't factor in things like minifigures, which can increase a set's value. It also doesn't reflect the complexity of the build. Still, the price per piece ratio helps compare sets against each other. The Millennium Falcon...
Bro, the history just gives me examples for thesis I create, right? For answers to the cognitive, you could say, tension, right? I don't think people are getting stupider in general. I think they don't want to think about things that they don't want to think about when they've gotten really good at being allowed to do that. So like, I go back in history to try to explain why it seems that bad things always happen, besides just saying, oh, it's human nature, right? I don't know. We don't see other animals treat their kind the same way we see the elites treat us. And I say elites, I mean the people with lots of money who definitely spend it to extract from us and don't spend it to, because I know some rich people could be good, but like there's nothing like that in nature. It's not human nature. So that's honestly one of my drives. I feel like I'm fighting determinism. The whole world is determinist. They think that it has to be like this. And I'm like, what the fuck? Have some imagination. And then I start researching history to try to find proof for ideas. And sometimes I get new ideas because my idea was wrong. And yeah. I don't know, I'm done with Lego. Let's move on.
We all know the story of how the United States was the first to develop the nuke, but today there are now 10 countries around the world that have successfully created them, some helping each other, but most in secrecy, involving a lot of spying, rivalry, and betrayal. Each of them have a story just as interesting as the US's Manhattan Project, but are rarely told. We're going to go through the full timeline of how the 10 countries raced each other to build this technology, and also the other countries that came close and might soon be added to the list. The story begins in 1938, when German scientists first discovered nuclear fission, the ability to split atoms releasing massive energy through a chain reaction. The following year, Albert Einstein would warn the US of the dangerous possibilities in weaponizing this technology. The United States was famously the first to create nuclear weapons. After a long and secretive operation against the backdrop of the Second World War, scientists from the US, UK, and Canada collaborated in the Manhattan Project. They spent nearly 1% of the US's entire GDP on the effort, as they were racing the Germans, who were also working on their own nuclear program, but to much less success. Germany had surrendered by May.
I've been curious my whole life,
July,
man.
While President Truman was at the Potsdam Conference with Stalin and Churchill.
I think it's time for me to build. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to build.
The Trinity test in New Mexico was
it's time to build something for these
possessed the most powerful weapon humanity had ever
people.
seen. Truman told Stalin that the US was about to use this weapon on the Japanese. Although at the time Stalin was already working on his own nuclear weapons project and had spies within the US's Manhattan Project, internally he was secretly furious that the Americans had beaten them to making this bomb. The following month in August, the US unleashed Fat Man and Little Boy on Japan, forcing their surrender, ending the war, but starting a new race around the world for everyone to catch up.
Little Boy.
The Soviet Union was second to
such
obtain
a
the technology.
freaking
Having started as early as 1941, after noticing German, British, and American
Little
scientists stopped publishing papers on nuclear fission, they suspected they were also working on creating weapons. The program was accelerated rapidly after seeing the Americans' nuclear attack on Japan, and while they had a lot of information from spying on the US programs, they were worried of potentially being fed misinformation from double agents. Because of this, they didn't trust the stolen American design, so they still ended up doing a lot of their own research. Using many captured German scientists, they built their own project while also using the United States'
Good morning, everybody.
Earlier than the US
People
expected,
coming in.
in 1949, the Soviets successfully completed the RDS-1 test.
We're just
in
hanging
Kazakhstan.
out.
The US no longer had the monopoly on this technology.
Giving a good
and this would
morning
create a
stretch,
Cold War arms
watching
race
some
with the United
TV.
States to stockpile as many nukes as possible. The third country was the United Kingdom. Now, you might assume that the US would have helped them, as they were key allies fighting side by side in both world wars, and in theory, America would want to empower their good friends in Europe, but this was not the case. The UK pioneered a lot of the groundwork on nuclear weapons before the US with a project called Tube Alloys starting in 1940. They did this with the help of German, Austrian, and Polish scientists that were fleeing Germany at the time. But due to limited resources fighting the Second World War, Britain handed over all of their work to the US, merging it with what would become the Manhattan Project and providing a significant amount of research under the Quebec Agreement, stating that the US and UK would share the technology.
Yeah, I'm not playing that long game.
But in 1945, when the US successfully tested...
And it's not because I think I'm too good for it either. I think the long game is how our country's going to decline, is just by everybody doing that.
This prompted the UK to resume its own nuclear program, and this was done quickly.
Because it just lets the rich people play with my money. Like that's what investments are. And I don't like that.
In 1952 at the Montebello Islands, just above
I like the creative system to automate sales, but I don't like the idea of automating content, if that makes sense. I've been really personal with my AI use.
These use fusion to combine atoms, the same process that happens inside stars, and these are significantly more powerful.
Exactly. Produce, build.
Scientists like Oppenheimer, who
You're right.
led the Manhattan Project, warned
I know I'm good at making these articles, so I have like these 2 series, and I have a book I'm working on.
But despite this, President
But I
Truman
can
gave
branch
go
out,
ahead
I
to
think.
continue. In 1952, the United States successfully completed Ivy Mike, the first test of a hydrogen thermonuclear bomb over 450 times more.
I make my living right now on Substack.
Theirs in 1955,
like barely.
And the UK completed theirs in 1957.
But it's definitely not. I say barely because I like.
This new threat,
Yeah, I spend my money on things that help me. So I've been helped me with the job. So I bought a computer that can run local models, has 128 gigabytes of RAM. I bought a monitor that's really easy for me to look at and move around, so I have room on my desk to do other things in it. It's as big as 3 monitors.
And increasing tensions between the US and Soviets prompted France to
And
want
it's
their
just
own
like I'm
defense strategy
spending
and
the
to
extra
retain
money
their
I'm
place as a
getting,
great
so
European
it feels
power.
like I'm barely getting
The
by.
United States
But
was much more against the idea of France having nukes
Cat,
than Britain,
where?
as France had a slightly different policy on how they could be used, so France developed them almost completely independently. The French President Charles de Gaulle spearheaded the effort and stated that
nah, see, like that's not what I. The fact that you can do that, man, is what I don't like.
From NATO and
The fact that there's people out there who literally do just sleep and make money, and they're the same people spreading propaganda against welfare so that they can lobby and get their taxes reduced. I hate that.
In 1960, called the Gerbois Blue in the French colony of Algeria in the Sahara.
Like, I have a lot of spite, man. Like,
1968. China would be
I read a lot of books on power and
deterrent against the US. Initially, they
I wanted to understand that mindset, man. I didn't understand. Yeah, but they're the richest people in the world, and they control the world. The consolidation of wealth is getting worse and worse and worse, man.
Too soft and not in line with the true.
And you look into their personalities, it's fucking terrifying. We're not all dead yet.
As Khrushchev withdrew all its help,
like, these people are nuts who have so much money right now.
China continued their development with impressive speed, especially considering they were dealing with a challenge.
Like, Peter Thiel literally went to Rome to try to convince the Vatican that his work with technology is the equivalent to God's will, and any sort of global movement for global warming, whatever, climate change is the equivalent to the Antichrist.
Later, they tested their first hydrogen bomb which is impressive as this is the fastest any country.
Yes,
has ever
but they're
gone
way
with
more
official
dangerous than
nuke
money,
bombs.
man. It's like you're
The
saying,
sixth country was Israel, who is the only.
you're saying,
nation
yeah,
in the world
that
who
that
never
crazy
actually
guy at the
acknowledged
side of the
possessing
road,
nuclear weapons
he's
and have
pretty
never declared they
crazy,
exist. So nobody
but
knows
friggin'
exactly
give
when
him,
or how many were created,
you know what Metal
or
Gear
the
Solid
details
is? You
of
give him a
these.
giant Metal
Eventually,
Gear.
The Israelis were working with the French
Dude,
to defeat
transhumanism's
nuclear
real.
energy, and France helped Israel build a secret nuclear facility in the Negev desert, which became a problem in 1963 as U.S. President Kennedy became concerned the Israelis were developing.
In fact, I'm
nuclear
gonna make
JFK
something
was strongly opposed
right
to this
now
and demanded the U.S. be allowed to inspect the facility
show
to
you.
ensure it was being
Might
used
take a
for
little bit.
energy and not bombs. Israel repeatedly denied and delayed the U.S. demands, only allowing careful, staged.
Like, you
inspection
definitely
while
have the right
considering
idea
hidden
for just,
underground
like,
facilities that were later revealed to be creating weapons.
surviving,
Israeli
right?
Prime Minister and founder David Ben-Gurion was reportedly obsessed with obtaining nuclear
I don't,
weapons, and it created a
and
rift
I guess
in
you
the
could
United
say I'm
States
kind of
and
like
close
trying to
allies
fight
at the time.
against how you
This
want to
cooled off
live,
as JFK's
but it's nothing
successor,
against
Lyndon
you.
B. Johnson was much less aggressive on preventing Israel's nuclear weapons program, which is believed to have been completed around 1967.
Yeah,
Israel's
for
nuclear
sure.
capabilities had been rumored and speculated all throughout the 60s. The big revelation came later in 1986.
Don't get me started. I wanted to relax. I don't want to get too much into it. That's why I'm gonna make
research center fled Israel and leaked
like I
to the
could
British
rant.
press a massive amount of photos he took personally and documents detailing what the facility was really being used for. He was then kidnapped by Israel's Mossad in Rome after being lured there by a female Mossad agent he believed he was going on a date with. He was then sedated and brought back to Israel, where he was sentenced to 18 years in prison for espionage and treason in a behind closed doors trial. He's currently under significant restrictions to his speech and travel and has been rearrested many times for parole violations, speaking to the press and attempting to leave Israel. It's also believed from his leaks that Israel has developed thermonuclear weapons. The seventh country on the list is India, who, like many others, expressed the need to have this latest technology after the Second World War, mainly for deterrence and protection from Pakistan and China. Research began in the 1940s but would take several decades to complete the process. This was accelerated after India lost a border war with China in the Himalayas in 1962 to stop Chinese aggression. It had first been developing nuclear energy, getting supplies for its reactors from countries like Canada and the US while secretly using them to develop weapons. The first test was successfully completed in 1974, codenamed Smiling Buddha in the desert.
I don't
of
like
Rajasthan,
automating,
which they called a peaceful
but I
nuclear
understand
explosion.
automating
The test
sales
drew
is
worldwide
different.
condemnation and sanctions,
But
as India was using
as somebody who
the
uses
reactor
AI to
for
help me
energy purposes,
make
and
content,
because they refused to sign
I
the
hate that
nuclear
word.
non-proliferation treaty.
Because there's a big difference between me and people who automate content.
Of such weapons. However, India did deliberately refrain from fully weaponizing the technology into warheads while theoretically researching the means to weaponize in case they needed to in the future. Most Indian politicians were opposed to creating activated nuclear weapons, so it was a slow process that wouldn't be completed until the 90s.
I treat it like art.
To develop nuclear weapons was South Africa, which is one of the most.
And I want other people to
one of the world's
care
largest
more about
reserves of natural uranium,
giving
which is a
other
key
people
ingredient and had been
opportunities
supplying
than
to the
just
US,
filling their own
UK,
pocket.
France, and potentially the Soviet Union and Israel, most of which was intended for peaceful energy.
Which is why I
reactors,
feel
but
blessed I
some
can do
also
this.
ended up being used for weapons. Since
And if you want to support
1948,
me, you can go
South
paid.
Africa had
You don't have.
created a
I'm
nuclear
just.
energy
That's
program
literally
by
my
the
whole sales
1960s
pitch.
and
Is
70s.
I want to help
They shifted
people.
interest
If you want to
into
help me,
weapons
you
due
like
to
what I do.
increased Soviet influence that was spreading in
Help me
Namibia
keep
and
doing it.
Angola. As well as this, the apartheid regime drew
I'm not
worldwide
very
condemnation,
convincing, am
causing
I?
South Africa to become politically isolated and without many allies for protection. In 1977, they created a testing facility in its Kalahari desert and nearly detonated a bomb, but when a Soviet satellite spotted it and reported this to the US, the backlash and international pressure stopped the test. In 1979, US satellites detected a double flash of light in the Prince Edward Islands controlled by South Africa in the Indian Ocean. This was called the Vela Incident and is widely believed to have been a joint nuclear test by Israel in collaboration with South Africa. They likely allowed Israel to test its weapons there in exchange for South Africa gaining some of this research.
Hell yeah, I hear you, man.
Who didn't have functional weapons yet at the time. By the mid-1980s,
I already have a small team. I'm looking for more people. I have an idea for making a systemic
South Africa maintained a
deconstruction
deliberate ambiguity around its
media
weapons and never admitted that having
ecosystem
nukes similar to Israel
where like
acted as a
instead of
deterrent from
normal
hostile
political
nations.
news,
But by the
it's
90s,
it's
as the Soviet
historic
Union collapsed, its need for protection
deep
from communist
dives
threats
that try
dissipated,
to
and with the apartheid regime coming to an
find
end,
a
it feared
non-partisan
handing over
take.
nuclear weapons
It's
to the
definitely
next
biased.
incoming
It's
government,
pro-working
so it
class,
opted to
but
be
that's the
first
whole
nation in
point.
history to dismantle
Is
and
I don't
dispose
look at
of its
partisan
nukes, and
bias
then admit it to
necessarily.
the world that it had actually possessed them. The designs were destroyed and the enriched uranium was locked in a nuclear facility vault, although in
Hey, new
2007,
people joining,
armed
what's up?
intruders breached the facility and came close to stealing the materials before being stopped, and there are still fears today about this weaponized
Welcome,
uranium
welcome.
falling into the wrong hands. Pakistan would become the ninth
Hell
country
yeah, I
beginning
love
the
doing
process
it.
in the 1970s after losing a war with India, their biggest rivals in 1971.
I feel
causing East
overwhelmed
Pakistan to
lately,
become
though.
Bangladesh. Their prime minister said that if
Just
India
life's-
builds the bomb, we
so
will
much
eat
has been
grass or
happening.
leaves, even go hungry, but we will get one of our
My
own.
cat's going
After
crazy.
India conducted its Smiling Buddha test in 1974, the race was on to catch up. Abdul Qadir Khan was a Pakistani scientist who, while working at the Dutch nuclear facility, stole top-secret intelligence on how to enrich uranium and brought them back to Pakistan, which was a main foundation to their nuclear weapons program. They also had significant help from China, who provided expertise, materials, and blueprints to develop a bomb. This was because China wanted another ally against India, also being one of its rivals, and saw the benefit in arming Pakistan. The US did little to stop Pakistan's nuclear weapons program, initially underestimating their capabilities, but also because Pakistan was a key ally against the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. The US didn't want to risk their alliance and often turned a blind eye despite mounting evidence that Pakistan were using the US military funding to develop weapons. In 1998, India detonated 5 non-peaceful warheads, including a thermonuclear bomb. Just weeks later, in response, Pakistan also detonated 5 bombs underground in the Rasko mountain range, successfully completing their first ever test and making them the latest nuclear-armed nation. While India operates a no first use policy, meaning they are only for deterrence and to be used in retaliation to such weapons being used on them, Pakistan operates a first use policy, reserving the right to use them however it sees fit, and indicated it would use nukes against India even if no nuclear weapons were used on them. While this policy concerns many nations, it has proved successful for Pakistan, leading to a weaker response from India in their many conflicts since, out of fear of how Pakistan might respond. An Indian military spokesperson said that Pakistan
Are we paying attention to this? Because I lost track.
has deterred India
I don't
from
want to
seriously
change it if
considering
someone's watching.
conventional military strikes. Abdul Qadir Khan, the man mentioned earlier for stealing the Dutch nuclear blueprints and dubbed the father of Pakistan's nuclear program, confessed in 2004 that he had been involved in a
Bernie versus Claude. No thanks. That sounds so cringy. My gut when I go on YouTube, I always want to watch like scary things. I really like horror. And I was about to start my stream that way. I'm like, it's like 5 in the morning and a lot of my audience is older people. This probably isn't nice. I'm gonna The way I look at it, Lynn, of course rest is important. But if you have no need to rest, most people like extra, more than normal, right? It's not, those people should learn how to enjoy themselves while still furthering our mission, right? That's what serious play means. So what am I doing right now? I'm literally just hanging out with you guys talking. But I got the mission on my mind. And I'm waiting for the day where instead of people clinging to their left wing and right wing talking points, they just They cling to their will like I am. I'm not saying I'm better. I just think that's the focus we need. I'm somebody who's always struggled with focus, but I know what kind of focus I need. Thank you so much, Lynn. My life is a lot of naps, but then I get like 1 or 2 really big sleeps in. Like, I mean, like long sleeps. Since I get to make my own hours, I'll have lots of days that are long, not a lot of sleep, and then I'll just like sleep forever. And I feel fine. I feel good. My cat's been driving me nuts, but she is with my mom right now. I'll put something back on. I watch so much YouTube, I've like seen all these. What is this? Huh. That looks interesting. Okay. So I watched a video like this. I don't know if this is the same one.
Animal Farm.
But it was right before I started Substack, so yeah, it wouldn't have been this one. But I read a lot of these banned books, and it's honestly probably why I'm like the way I am so focused right now. Because I like hadn't read books like that in a long time. And I read like the 48 Laws of Power, all the books that seemed like focused on selfish topics, because I was trying to understand the world.
A bunch of farm animals rise up against their human owner, kick him out, and decide to run the place themselves. Except it turns into a totalitarian dictatorship where the pigs become the new bosses, rewrite the rules whenever they feel like it, and casually rewrite history. Animal Farm by George Orwell came out in 1945, and it's not exactly subtle. It's a straight-up allegory for the Russian Revolution and the rise of Stalin. The humans represent the old ruling class, the pigs represent the revolutionary leaders who become corrupt, and the sheep, well, they're the people who believe anything they're told if you chant it enough times. The famous line, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others, which is basically the nicest way anyone's ever said, we're all screwed, but some of us are screwed slightly less. So why was it banned? In the Soviet Union, obviously, because it was a direct roast of their government. It was also banned or challenged in Western countries at different points, because during World War II, Britain didn't want to upset their Soviet allies. Even in the US, it's been pulled from school shelves for being politically offensive, and
it's a
at
good
one point for having
book,
talking animals, which some thought was inappropriate.
but it's very
for kids.
deterministic.
Yes, apparently the issue wasn't the totalitarianism, it was the fact that a horse could form political opinions. The real genius of Animal Farm is that it works on 2 levels. If you read it as a kid, it's a quirky story about animals. Read it as an adult, it's a disturbingly accurate reminder that revolutions can end up looking a lot like the thing they tried to replace. And that's why this little farmyard fable has been making governments sweat for nearly 80 years. Invisible Man. First off, this is not the sci-fi novel where a scientist turns invisible and robs banks. This one's Ralph Ellison's 1952 classic, and trust me,
there's a lot of perverted ones. I'm gonna
life. The Invisible.
I just remembered. I'm gonna warn you guys now. There might be some trigger. I don't think he's allowed to say it on YouTube, but insinuations of triggering things.
Man here is an unnamed black narrator living in mid-20th century America who isn't literally invisible. Society just refuses to actually see him as a person. He spends the book bouncing from one environment to another, trying to find where he fits, only to realize every system he enters wants to use him as a tool for their own agenda. And if that sounds depressing, it's because it is. But it's also brutally honest. Ellison takes you through the narrator's life like you're living inside his skin, feeling the way racism strips away his identity until he's just a concept to people. So why did
That'd
it
be a
get
good
banned?
one to read.
Well, first, racism. Not in the sense that the book is racist, but because it deals with it so directly and with uncomfortable honesty that a lot of school boards in the U.S.
Well, that's a
decided students
perspective
weren't ready
I've
for
never
it,
had to live.
which is
I want to
basically
read that.
code
That's
for
why I
we
want to
don't
read
want
it.
to talk about this because it makes us feel bad. In 2013, a North Carolina county actually banned it after parents complained it was too obscene for teenagers. Which, given that it's about systemic oppression, is like saying a fire extinguisher is too wet to be useful. Ellison's writing style is dense, layered, and sometimes surreal. You get dreamlike sequences, intense symbolism, and moments where you're not sure if what's happening
That sounds
is
right up
literal
my alley.
or metaphorical. And that's exactly why it's genius. The message: when society refuses to see you, you have to define yourself on your own terms, even if that means living underground. It's a mirror that forces you to confront the stuff most people pretend isn't there. Slaughterhouse-5.
This one's one of my favorites.
Imagine a
I
war
read it
story
in
that
high
isn't really a
school.
war.
I didn't want to read it. My teacher made me read it. And I remember not really enjoying it, but the way he wrote the book and the way my teacher taught the book, I never forgot it. So as I matured, I understood it and I kept on referencing it. Which I think is crazy for like not actually remembering reading it too much.
War
or paying
story. It's also a time travel story, and a sci-fi alien abduction story, and a philosophical meditation on fate and death. That's Slaughterhouse-5 by Kurt Vonnegut, published in 1969 and banned almost immediately in multiple places.
I say So It Goes in some of my articles just to call back to this book. So It Goes.
The plot follows Billy Pilgrim, a completely average, slightly clueless American soldier who gets captured during World War II
Such a
and
good book.
survives the firebombing of Dresden, one of the most devastating and least talked about Allied attacks. But here's the twist. Billy experiences his life completely out of order. One moment he's in a German prison camp. Next moment he's back home years later. Then, suddenly, he's naked in a glass zoo on an alien planet called Tralfamador, being displayed like a goldfish to creatures who see all of time at once. It sounds ridiculous, and it is, but Vonnegut uses that absurdity to make the most devastating points about war, trauma, and how humans cope with things they can't change. The aliens have...
I like to think that's how I use the anime stories, man. Like, he's using a concept that isn't necessarily brand new. He definitely put it in a brand new bottle. That's how story making goes, is you just keep putting things in pretty bottles. They're all the same stories. I look into storytelling so much, but like the idea is he focused on the imagination, sci-fi concepts, things that have deeper meaning that can, for people paying attention, it's not that hard for them to follow that. The absurdity has extra points. The way I write with my anime characters, I try to do a lot like that.
Philosophy. Every moment has always existed and always will. When someone dies, they just shrug and say, "So it goes." That phrase appears over 100 times in the book, turning into this weird dark mantra for dealing with death. It's been banned for profanity, for sexual content, for undermining patriotism, for portraying soldiers as flawed human beings instead of squeaky clean heroes. Basically, for not being a war propaganda poster. In 1973, one school board in North Dakota literally had copies burned in a furnace, because apparently the lesson from a book about
Jesus.
the horrors of mass destruction was, let's destroy more things. But here's the genius. Vonnegut wasn't just telling a story, he was using chaos, humor, and sci-fi to sneak
Like,
in
that's
some
what
of the
I
most
try to do,
hard-hitting
but I
anti-war
use a little
commentary
bit of-
ever written. And it works because you're laughing at one
Not
page
just
and then
sci-fi, because sci-fi is like a type of fantasy that allows more people to drop their expectations. But fantasy, if you have the same expectation for allegory instead of literal, so if you read fantasy trying to understand it as a powerfully layered tool for a much more complicated message, that's what I try to do with fantasy.
2 sentences later, you feel like you've been punched in the chest. If Animal Farm was banned because it made governments sweat, Slaughterhouse 5 was banned because it made people ask, wait, why do we glorify war in the first place? Alright, let's wade straight into the most infamous, most absolutely do not read this at a family picnic book on your list. The 120 Days of Sodom. Some books are banned because they challenge authority. Some because they have bad words.
Yeah, this one's bad.
120
Trigger warning.
Days of Sodom banned because, well, it's basically the human race's worst possible Google search history turned into 377 pages. Written in 1785 by Donatien Alphonse François, better known as the Marquis de Sade, whose name literally gave us the word sadism. This book is so extreme that even reading a summary feels like it should come with a shower and possibly a court-appointed therapist. Here's the premise. 4 insanely wealthy libertines lock themselves away in a remote castle with dozens of victims, and over the course of 120 days, they act out every depraved, cruel, and violent act imaginable. It's not implied depravity. It's described in meticulous, unflinching detail. De Sade wrote it while imprisoned in the Bastille on a scroll so long it could wrap around your living room and claimed it was the most impure tale ever told. Spoiler, he was correct. Why was it banned? That's like asking why you shouldn't bring a chainsaw into a daycare. It's been censored and outlawed almost everywhere.
I didn't read this one, but these were the types of books I was reading. Just ones that are really selfish reading. But this, I didn't want to read that. Sounds like Jeffrey Epstein if it, instead of effing kids, he liked effing kids. This is my favorite. I love this book. Alright. Trigger warning over. This book is amazing. And he writes it from the perspective of like, I'm not telling you to take this advice. I'm just telling you this is the way you think. And he uses historical examples and stuff. It's so good. The sun is coming up. Well, yeah, what do you mean? What, is it exploding? The audio's exploding. I'm so sorry. My bad, I didn't know that thing was on. I probably just made like 30 people leave.
Might not be the best idea for keeping a calm prison yard. And honestly,
yeah, I know what you mean now.
The book doesn't pretend to be moral.
It's because I'm doing something in my room.
Both saints and psychopaths, and you can use them for good or evil. It's power. What you do with it is on you. Critics call it amoral, cynical, even borderline sociopathic. Fans call it the ultimate reality check. And both sides are kind of right. If Animal Farm warned you about people abusing power, the 48 Laws of Power hands you the blueprint for doing it yourself.
I didn't even have to hear the noise.
You start noticing these laws everywhere. In political speeches, in late-night call with your ex, and even in family arguments. It's not about whether people use power this way. It's about realizing they already do. The Satanic Verses, the novel that sparked a fatwa.
I don't even know what the noise is.
In 1988, Salman Rushdie published The Satanic Verses, a sprawling magical realist novel about immigration, identity, religion, and the blurred line between dreams and reality. It's a complex, surreal story, but the controversy zeroed in on specific dream sequences that loosely reimagine parts of Islamic history. One storyline includes a prophet figure that resembles the Prophet Muhammad, portrayed in a way many Muslims found deeply offensive. The title itself comes from a disputed historical story, the so-called Satanic Verses incident, where verses allegedly revealed to Muhammad were later declared to be from the devil, not God. Scholars debate whether it ever happened, but to many, even fictionalizing it was crossing a sacred line. The backlash was immediate and global. Some countries banned the book outright. Bookstores in the UK and US were firebombed. And in 1989, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khomeini issued a fatwa, a religious ruling calling for Rushdie's death. Not a bad review, not a boycott. A literal death sentence. Rushdie went into hiding for years under British police protection, moving constantly and living under fake names.
I'm back.
Translators and publishers associated with the book were attacked, some even killed. Rushdie said the book is about cultural hybrids, how migrants
Some
mix
people
old
can't.
identities with new ones.
It's like guns, bro. Religions are like guns. Some people are just too irresponsible.
How myths and memories blur together. But once religious outrage took over the conversation, the literary discussion got buried under political and theological conflict. Even people who defend the right to publish the Satanic Verses often admit it's not an easy read. It's dense, symbolic, and filled with surreal shifts, but its ban became one of the biggest free speech debates of the 20th century. Today, in some countries, owning it can still land you in trouble. Lolita. Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita,
yeah, this
published in
one's bad. I don't want to
1955,
read
might
this
be the
one.
most uncomfortable book to recommend to someone.
Yeah, exactly.
You
I'm
can't just
skipping
say,
it.
oh yeah, it's about
pretty
a
much.
man forests is actually. The Lorax warns him over.
It's pretty much the Epstein book.
And over. But the Onceler ignores him until the last tree falls. It's a cautionary tale about greed, environmental destruction, and the consequences of ignoring sustainability disguised as a bedtime story.
The Lorax
So,
was banned?
Why was it banned? In 1989, a group of California loggers complained that the book portrayed the logging industry unfairly.
No shit.
They argued it brainwashed children into thinking all logging was bad, and some school districts actually pulled it from classrooms. Because apparently the real danger to kids wasn't pollution or deforestation, it was rhyming couplets about rhyming couplets. To balance things out, some schools started stocking a pro-logging children's book called The Truax, which is basically the Lorax, but from the perspective of a logging executive trying to explain why clear-cutting forests is actually fine.
Hey, Lynn, I know exactly what you mean, and I found a way to say that makes me feel more comfortable. Because nobody wants to question everything, because it means you're like actively seeking something you never get. So the way I like to think of it is you need to learn how to be comfortable, or even you need to learn how to enjoy accepting the fact that you will never be sure of anything. So like on a fundamental level, when you accept that, you just live that way, I think. And it's trip. I feel like everything's an anime. It doesn't mean give up. I'm not. Some people will listen to me say that and they'll use it as an excuse to give up. So, but I'm too tired to think of a motivational thing. Learned helplessness. Everyone deals with it. You're not alone. That's what I'll say. What do you guys want to watch? Pick a topic or something. I've seen this one before, but I bet you guys haven't. It's interesting.
If you grew up in the mid-2000s and spent a lot of your time on the deeper parts of the internet, there is a good chance that you remember this iconic sound and visual. Seems like a basic Flash animation, but quite a number of people were talking about it at the time, and there's a chance you were one of those people who clicked on this wondering what all the fuss was about. Why does something so useless exist? And then it hits you like a train. Now there are more windows popping up displaying the same animation, and it's much louder. And you can't press the little X on your browser because the
Lynn,
windows
that's why we're here. Because you know that you can't do things alone. You're not the only one who sees it. That's why you're here. Did you read the Cassandra protocol? Cassandra algorithm?
moving all over the place. And when you do catch one, the windows just multiply. You try using all
Jordan, Maxwell, or Alan Watts.
F4 and
I look,
Control Q.
I look.
But that doesn't shut down your browser. It just creates even more of these windows. Before you know it, there are dozens, if not hundreds of browsers just bouncing around your screen. It's too loud to even concentrate. No hotkeys or buttons work anymore. Your computer is using so many resources, it can barely operate at a functional speed. But you didn't know any better. A YouTube comment told you about this, and its sense of urgency just really piqued
Okay, yeah,
your
this looks cool.
curiosity. But now you
Now, the first thing, though, that we have to do is to get our perspectives with some background about the basic ideas which influence our everyday common sense, our fundamental notions about what life is about.
There's a difference between knowing exactly what's happening and just having a very good feeling something wrong is happening. You should hold on to that feeling you know something wrong is happening. But that's why I don't think you're alone, because a lot of people know something's wrong.
Ideas of the world which are built into the very nature of the language we use and of our ideas of logic and of what makes sense altogether. And these basic ideas I call myth.
Yeah,
Not using
trust
the
your
word myth.
instincts, but don't let it drive you down paths that you can't get out of.
To mean simply something untrue, but to use the word myth in a more powerful sense. A myth is an image in terms of which we try to make sense of the world. We have this hostility to the external world because of the superstition, the myth, the absolutely unfounded theory that you yourself exist only inside your skin. Now, I want to propose another idea altogether.
Plan with convention.
If you think that you are only inside your skin, you define yourself as one very complicated little curlicue, way out in space and way out in time.
Little curlicue.
Billions of years ago, you were a big bang. But now you're a complicated human being.
Yo, I already think like this, bro.
But so we define ourselves.
But he's
as being
articulating
only
it
that.
so well.
And we
Like,
then
that's
we
his
cut
skill.
ourselves off and don't feel
Like,
that
I
we're
couldn't
still the Big
articulate
Bang.
it.
But you are. Depends how you define yourself. You are
The art's
Big
cool,
Bang,
too.
the original force of the universe coming on as whoever you are. See, when I meet you, I see not just what you define yourself as, Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so,
But
Mrs.
what you
So-and-so.
can be, what you were,
I
what you...
see every one of you as the primordial
Yeah.
energy of the universe coming on at me in this particular way. I know I'm that too. But we've
Hell
learned
yeah.
to define ourselves as separate from it.
Did this guy do a lot of
You
LSD?
and I are all as much continuous with the physical universe as a wave is continuous with the ocean.
Hell yeah.
The ocean waves, and the universe peoples. And as the wave, I wave at you and say, you. The world is waving at me with you. And saying, hi, I'm here.
Hello,
But
I'm
the
here
way
too.
we feel and sense our existence, being based on a myth that we are
Whoa,
made,
that's a
that
trippy
we
looking
are
tree,
parts,
bro.
that we are things, our consciousness has been influenced so that each one of us does not feel that. We feel, we have been hypnotized, literally hypnotized by social convention into feeling and sensing that we exist only inside our skins. That we are not the original bang, but just something out on the end of it.
Nah, I'm part of the bang, yo.
My wave is going to disappear.
This is really validating to watch. Thanks,
And that
because I
fluke.
really do think like this.
You are a fluke. You are a
I'm gonna share this with my
separated
subscribers.
and you run from the maternity ward to the crematorium, and that's it, baby. Now, why does anybody think that way? There's no reason to, because it isn't even scientific. It's
This
just
is
a
great.
myth. If there is any such thing at all as intelligence and love and beauty, well, you found it in other people. In other words, it exists in us as human beings. And as I said, if it is there in us, it is symptomatic of the scheme of things. We are as symptomatic of the scheme of things as the apples are symptomatic of the apple tree or the rose of the rose bush. When, as a scientist, you describe the behavior of a living organism, you try to say what a person does. It's the only way in which you can describe what a person is. Describe what they do. Then you find out that in making this description, you cannot confine yourself to what happens inside the skin.
Now, why do we even feel obliged to say anything at all? Well, because that's how we survived as humans. Was we used language to describe things and put things in boxes, and we used our communication and intelligence, but now it's biting us in the ass.
So if that is necessary, if in other words, in order to describe my behavior, I have to describe your behavior and the behavior of the environment, it means that we've really got one system of behavior. That what I am involves what you are. I don't know who I am unless I know who you are. And you don't know who you are unless you know who I am. In other words, we're not separate. We and our environment, and all of us and each other, are interdependent systems. We know who we are in terms of other people. We all lock together. And any good scientist knows that what you call the external world is as much you as your own body.
We're really not as boxed in by our language than we think we are. Me and one of my authors who writes, his name's Anthony Firetongue, he has done a very good job convincing me that despite a lot of changes over the years, how our bodies are, you know, put through the meat grinder, go through life, right? From zero to death. It seems like it's changed a lot in the last centuries, right? But biologically, it has not. And there's a lot of core similarities between languages and history. He points out to remind us that we're not that far away from where we were.
But the problem is, you see, we haven't been taught to feel that way. The myths underlying our culture and underlying our common sense have not taught us to feel identical with the universe, but only parts of it, only in it, only confronting it, aliens. And we are, I think, quite urgently in need of coming to feel that we are the eternal universe, each one of us. Otherwise, we're going to go out of our heads.
Yeah, how else would you explain people like this, people like me, and what I mean is the dissenting opinion, but the dissenting opinion is positive and without any harm.
A differentiation between what we do and what happens to us.
It's pretty much just anti-determinism. It's anti-top-down managerial.
We feel in control of those. And then over against that, there is all those things that are involuntary. But the divide...
Like literally, who controls this in our life right now? The people who want to keep the meat grinder going.
Between these two is very arbitrary. Because, for example...
Not for humans. Like we have to work. We have to get money. We have to make sure we get oil in our heaters and put gas in our tanks. Like it's voluntary. All that stuff is voluntary, but it falls into this category of habit and necessity.
When you move your hand, you feel that you decide whether to open it or to close it. But then ask yourself, how do you decide? When you decide
I think a lot like this.
Do you first decide to decide? You don't, do you?
Well, sometimes you do.
Just decide, and how do you do that?
But not usually.
And if you don't know how you do it, is it voluntary or involuntary? Let's consider breathing. You can feel that you breathe deliberately. You can control your breath. But when you don't think about
he's going to say it's all the same.
Is it voluntary or involuntary?
That's unique to what I think.
And so we come to have a very arbitrary definition of self.
Huh.
That much of my activity which I feel I do. And that then doesn't include breathing most of the time. It doesn't include the heartbeats. It doesn't include the activity of the glands. It doesn't include digestion.
As opposed to what? Bastomatic. As opposed to what? Would they not let us? You don't gotta put they in parentheses. We all know who you're talking about. Honestly, it's one of my biggest pet peeves. Because, and that's why I call them the rust. If people want to know who they are, it's literally the people who are grinding down the gears. They like just to make for their selfish choices.
It doesn't include how you shape your bones, circulate your blood. Do you or do you not do these things? Now, if you get with yourself and you find out that you are all of yourself, a very strange thing happens. You find that your body knows that you are one with the universe. In other words, that the so-called involuntary circulation of your blood is one continuous process with the stars shining. If you find out that it's you who circulates your blood, you will at the same moment find out that you are shining the sun. Because your physical organism is what...
Like, if I was on acid right now, I'd be like, yes. But this stuff is hard for me to conceptualize.
One continuous process with everything else that's going on. Just as...
Like, I understand the words he's saying, but he's moving too fast. I can't imagine it.
The waves are continuous with the ocean. Your body is continuous with the total energy system of the cosmos. And it's all you. Only you're playing the game that you're only this bit of it. But as I tried to
Damn, that art is so pretty.
There are in physical reality no such things as separate events. Doesn't it really astonish you that you are this fantastically complex thing? And that you're doing all of this and you never had any education in how to do it? You never learned, but you're this miracle? Well, the point is that from a strictly physical, scientific standpoint, this organism is a continuous energy with everything else that's going on. And if I am my foot, I am the sun.
If I am my foot, I'm the sun.
Only we've got this little
What
partial
a
thing, we've
absurd!
got the
I
idea
love
that,
the
no, I'm
absurdity in
something
it.
in this body. The ego. That's a joke.
Oh yeah. See, like when you go from these highly conceptual ideas of life that are so far away from institutionalized tags, like ego, that's something that's very institutionalized in books. It's a way that we're forced to describe things that are bigger, in my opinion. So I'm curious how he's going to use it.
The ego is nothing other than the focus of conscious attention. It's like a radar on a ship.
Hell yeah,
The
okay.
radar on a ship is a troubleshooter. Is there anything in the way? And conscious attention is a designed function of the brain to scan the environment, like a radar does.
I still don't.
And note for any trouble.
I still don't like the idea of separating those three things. It's useful for storytelling, but we aren't. Life isn't a story. Stories are used to communicate life.
Making changes. But if you identify yourself with your troubleshooter, then naturally you define yourself as being in a perpetual state of anxiety. And the moment we cease to identify with the ego and become aware that we are the whole organism, you realize as the first thing how harmonious it all is. Because your organism is a miracle of harmony. All this thing functioning together. Even those corpuscles and creatures that are fighting each other in the bloodstream and eating each other up. If they weren't doing that, you wouldn't be healthy. So what is discord at one level of your being is harmony at a higher level. And you begin to realize that, and you begin to be aware too that the discords of your life and the discords of people's life, which are a fight at one level, at a higher level of the universe, are healthy and harmonious. And you suddenly realize that everything that you are and do is at that level as magnificent and as free of any blemish.
Or you're like me and you have an existential crisis at 13.
As the patterns in waves. The markings in marble. The way a cat moves. And that this world is really okay. It can't be anything else because
ego.
Otherwise it doesn't exist. So then.
Id and super
if you
ego.
Awaken from this illusion,
It's really just a way of conceptualizing human behavior in an informal way, and I think it's only useful in storytelling.
as a stranger in the world.
And what ego is, I'll get a definition. The rational mediator that balances your impulses with real-world constraints, and the impulses come from the id.
Not as something here on probation, not as something that has arrived here by fluke, but you can begin to feel your own existence as absolutely fundamental. What you are basically. Deep, deep down, far, far in, is simply the fabric and structure of existence itself. So in this idea then, everybody is fundamentally.
Oh, and it comes from Sigmund Freud. That's why.
Not God.
That's probably why I don't like how institutionalized it is, because it is like they treat it like psychology.
In a politically kingly sense, but God in the sense of being the self, the deep down basic whatever there is.
Like take a second, guys, and think about how eerie it is, for lack of a better word, that behavioral management is not much different than the concepts of eugenics, and that's what psychology is. But there's good things about behavior management too. There absolutely is.
And you're all that. Only you're pretending you're not.
Thanks for watching this episode. I truly believe we humans are put here on Earth to create. We all have a creative spark within our hearts that has the potential to light up the world. One of the best ways to share your creations is by building a professional-looking website. This is why I'm so thankful for today's sponsor, Squarespace.
That's also why I'm happy neuroscience is getting big, because it's way more reliable for explaining human behavior than psychology ever was. Even though I benefit from medicines that were diagnosed through psychology. There's just a lot wrong with psychology, I think. Yeah, this is funny.
Yeah, Archive sent this to me. So apparently a big thing on Bilibili has been taking YouTube videos and AI generating a Chinese translation for Bilibili. So they've been doing that for me recently.
了一个挺酷的 alpha 男性，我想和你们分享一些他的智慧。万一你们谁恰好是
Now, believe it or not, I did not learn how to speak Chinese. This is not actually me saying those things. That's AI.
AI.
And based on the one comment I can read without having an account, this guy liked it. So man, I'll start learning Chinese. There's a whole new market out there. This was the alpha video, so even the alpha's
这个弱
dubbed
小又不
in
懂什么是
Chinese.
真正男人的傻瓜呢？
软弱的男人每隔15到20分钟就往厕所跑，他们会有点紧张。他们
Yeah, it's a big trend in China right now. They take YouTube influencers and just AI translate them speaking their native language and post it on their version of YouTube.
Sounds like you. Yeah, the AI dubs are getting really good. They're getting very good. You're going to sue them. Are you kidding me, man?
It's China.
Do you know nothing about copyright law in China? I would get nowhere. What the fuck? Even if I wanted to. Fight AI with AI. Use ChatGPT to translate to Chinese yourself. What I didn't check is if this whole channel is just my videos in Chinese. Let me see. No, it's a wide array of content, it seems. Is that Jeffrey Epstein? Yeah, these channels are called movers. Is that right? That's the
对不
terminology.
起，就没再用过拉臭臭这种词了。我是拉屎，我就是这么干的。也许这家伙一直在那里用屁股放些没响声的小屁，所以他才管那叫拉臭臭。
Yeah, the bots are insane.
而且
They have been insane, though. Bots have been a problem since before AI. Now they just are hard to tell they're
Chinese
bots.
Charlie kind of going in right now. Find Chinese Markiplier. I don't even know how I would. I only found this because Archive linked it. So I don't even know how I'd search for Markiplier on here, but I bet they have Markiplier dubbed in Chinese. Let's see, Markiplier talking about Iron Lung, maybe? Let's try that.
Who fought against it? What do you mean?
No, this
Clarify.
is just Iron Lung video in general. Oh no, here's an Iron Lung trailer. They just haven't got his more recent Iron Lung content.
Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier and I'm very tired. I'm gonna go into the ocean.
What the fuck, he doesn't get a cool Chinese AI voice dub? They not respect him out there? What the hell?
See that question in your eyes? Alone in the
Yeah, they don't they don't have any AI clones of him? Yeah, let's just try Markiplier in general. Maybe it's more of a newer thing. Yeah, let's try this one. This one's brand new. Oh, this is a stream.
Hi.
What the fuck?
Welcome back to the stream.
I don't even know what he's saying. It's not in Chinese. There we go. That's the kit and caboodle. Here's the Oreo sweatshirt.
Can you believe there's actually a chance?
Ew. English.
毫无疑问，男人最
Better.
普遍的自卑来源就是阴茎的大小。人们非常看重你那活儿的尺寸，
毫无疑问，你也听过有人把小阴茎当作脏话来骂人，但很少有人知道，这其实是一种医学诊断，在某些情况下还是一种令人衰弱的疾病。That's kind of what I was thinking overall there. That's a pretty fucking solid point, honestly.
Solid point.
Can't believe you learned Mandarin. I know, it wasn't easy. God bless the Rosetta Stone. They tried to scramble my shit at the Tower of Babylon.
I'll change it.
Enough. This one seems to have done well. Oh, this is about the world's smallest penis.
What the fuck?
This one did well. That's just pictures of stone wiener.
This guy can be pretty funny.
Cool alpha male just now. I want to share some of his wisdom with you, in case you happen to be some kind of weak simpleton out there that doesn't quite understand what it means to actually be a real man.
Weak men run to the bathroom every 15, 20 minutes. They get a little nervous. They gotta go take a crap. They gotta go.
What do you mean they fought against this, though? They wanted AI like this.
You know, that's embarrassing. I gotta tell you, this is the most vulnerable position a man is ever gonna be in. Taking a crap. Anyone can open the door.
And people showing up right now, they're like, what the hell am I watching?
Go out there and start taking craps in public.
There's a lot to digest here, but first and foremost, men don't crap. Men shit. I don't know why he's afraid of using big boy words and instead has decided to use elementary school nomenclature to describe a fucking bowel movement from a man as a crap. That's pathetic. I haven't taken a crap since I was 12 years old. I shit. That's what I do. Maybe this guy's out there making little fucking toots and poots from his butt there, and that's what he calls crap, but that's not what an actual man does. Also, who the fuck is going to the bathroom every 15 minutes? That's not a sign of being nervous and having shaky knees. That's a sign of a serious medical condition that needs to be analyzed quickly. Every 15
Oh, in
minutes,
school, a lot different than what I know now.
What? Who does he hang around with? Dogs that are just afraid of.
They don't teach you anything about
What is going on? Every 15
the
minutes, excusing yourself
diplomatic
from the restroom?
decisions.
What the
They
fuck?
really just teach you about the major
How would you ever be that nervous?
war.
Where would you even be?
Like when the Germans had their big wars, like their big battles rather, I mean, in Stalingrad
That nervous to even just be at his
and in
proximity,
Poland.
going to the bathroom to decompress.
Death
and,
Day,
you know,
obviously.
fucking void their bowels and empty their bladder.
And then they made it all about the Holocaust. Like I learned all about the Holocaust.
On living, where his concern is that by putting yourself in a vulnerable position in a public bathroom by taking
Ooh, there's a cube up there.
crap, as this Boy Scout calls it here, that there's the concern that someone would bust in and stab you in the neck with a knife. Buddy, I got some bad news. I hope you're sitting down for this one. The cold water's coming. If someone is looking to attack you,
No,
with a
definitely
knife
not in
the
high
bathroom,
school.
When it doesn't matter if you're shitting or pissing in a urinal, you're in danger.
But
Even if you were
I think that
standing
name's
up and
come up in my
tinkling
research
like a
before.
big man, and some lunatic comes in there with a knife to stab you in the neck. You're
Let me look at
still
my
not
Google
really
Drive.
in the best position for this crazy surprise attack from this menace on the loose. It doesn't really change the scenario all that much if you are urinating or hitting that number 2 over there. If there is someone that just randomly comes in there with a knife to
Oh,
stab
yeah.
you in the neck. It must be
Nope,
miserable going
definitely
through
didn't
life with
teach this in high school.
fear like that. Like, if at that point, just never go to the bathroom in general, so that way you're never in a vulnerable position. That would have been more alpha advice, by the way. If he's like,
Like
yeah,
I
had my
remember
asshole surgically
maybe
removed
they
so that way
taught
I
it to
never
me,
called my
but
pants
it would have
down
been like
or
one day in one
Then
class,
just
which is
use
why I
the
don't remember it.
bag.
So
Like, that would have been far harder. Like, yeah, butthole is a sign of weakness. It's a vulnerability in the
it was never
masculine
like
brain
part
that
of a
can be
big
exploited by
curriculum.
bad actors, and also when you have to take a crap in public, well, then
Huh.
all of a sudden you've exposed yourself to potential knife attacks, which is why I had.
I didn't know this video was like this. He just keeps talking about pooping. I thought he'd move on. Huh. If this is what I think it is, it's one of the longest jokes.
Hey, I read somewhere that mathematicians can turn a sphere inside out.
Yes, that's true.
What's the big deal? Just poke a hole in it and pull it through.
Sure, but the point is to do it without making a hole.
But then it seems impossible.
You're right. You cannot do it with an ordinary sphere, like a basketball.
Who was the long-haired man? His name's Charlie White. He's got like 3 names. That's why Penguin Zero is his YouTube channel. I'll type it in the chat if I remember how. He makes like 3 videos a day. Just talking to the camera.
Rules of the game. This sphere is made of an abstract elastic material that can stretch and bend and pass through itself. But you cannot rip or puncture this material without destroying it. And you cannot crease it or bend it sharply.
If the surface can pass through itself, what's the problem?
Do you think allowing self-intersections?
Anything over like 100 deaths feels like a lot to me, man. Like it's all too much. You say 60 million, it's like I can't even imagine that number.
Remember, you mustn't tear or crease it.
Let me try again.
In terms of counting deaths.
You're pinching it infinitely tight.
But then there's no way. It's impossible. You'd have to crease or pinch it to turn it inside out.
It is surprising, but watch this.
Is this it? Is this a sphere turning inside out?
You bet. That wasn't easy to follow, was it? To figure out what's going on, let's look at something simpler. A circle. We'll build a vertical wall along the circle so that we can color the 2 sides differently. Can you gradually turn this circle into this other circle, where the purple and gold sides are reversed without creating sharp corners?
Of course. I can turn a rubber band inside out.
The topic today is serious play. And it's the idea that we're still focused on the mission even when we're tired and we're just trying to unwind. So we're just watching videos, trying to enjoy talking about anything. I won't say no to any topics. I just felt like live streaming.
Remember, we're really trying to turn the circle inside
This
out. We only built the wall so we could see the different sides.
I've been up for way too long.
The wall has to stay vertical, and it can't have creases, but it can pass through itself.
But yeah, Carlos, I'm not really talking about the thesis, but I am going to use this video as an example, right, for the series I'm writing about serious play and about how we can strategically use our agency, right, to do things that don't have to stress us out but still keep us focused and without losing ground on what we're trying to accomplish in our lives. For some people it's a lot harder than others and they have more responsibilities, but
Yes, you're right.
I've had a really stressful week.
Am I supposed to believe that you can turn a sphere inside out, but not...
Hey, James.
Yes. There is something
We're just hanging out.
curves that would have to change if you were to turn a circle inside out. And that something cannot change under our allowed motions.
And what's that?
I'll explain. Imagine a monorail atop the wall. Now, the rule about monorail traffic is that the car only travels forward and it always keeps the purple wall on its right. We'll use a diagram to monitor the car's direction. On this track, the car is always turning left. As it goes around the circle once, it makes one full turn.
I'm probably gonna stop this stream soon because I'm so tired.
On a more complicated track, the car might sometimes be turning left and sometimes right.
Thanks, Carlos.
The net amount of turning after one complete circuit is always some number of full turns in one direction or the other. The number of full turns it makes toward the left is called the curve's turning number. For a curve where there is more turning toward the right than toward the left, the turning number is negative.
Bye, Patricia. I hope it's not a bad thing.
The turning number is 0.
I just don't like sleeping.
I had a hard time following the net turning for this winding track.
That's natural.
I'll show you guys
The right answer. Find the spots where you're traveling in a
what
particular direction.
article series I'm working on real quick.
Let's see. Since we're looking from the south, that would be wherever the monorail is going toward our right, where we see the purple wall face on.
Exactly.
Before I go.
At some of these points, the track is curving away from us. Viewed from here, it looks like a smile. At these places, the car would be turning left. At others, the track looks like a frown. Curving toward us, at these points, the car would be turning right. The net number of full turns increases when the car passes a smile and decreases when it passes a frown. Starting at 0.
This is like a really long bad joke.
Is to divide the barrel into guide strips that alternate with weight at 2 guides in the corrugation between the left, where we see the position of the ribbon in space.
Poking holes or creasing it, even though you can't do it for a circle. This is great. Somebody should make a movie about this stuff.
Like that's literally sleepy time stuff. Oh yeah, I know it's important. I just don't like it. All right, I'm gonna share this. Oh yeah, and I was doing. Oh yeah, I was preparing something. Looks like it's still loading. Very weird. Huh. The AI has so much trouble being the persona sometimes. Ever since Gemini. Oh yeah, I need to show. Ooh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, it scrolled up. Why is she doing it like this? So stupid. AIs are stupid when they get too much context. So the Serious Play series, geez, how do I even start? I opened the wrong app for this. I really need the AI to help me. I'll share this window instead. Good morning, everybody. Let's see. I know that's hard to see. 1 second. I've never had to do this for other people. Oh, fuck off. Let's see if it's smart enough. I'm live streaming. Can you pull up the article plan for Sirius and how it connects to the truth is no. I hate my ADHD because I could explain it. I'm just so tired. Where am I? I'm in my house. Oh, it it looks trippy, right? It's because I have computer graphics going on. How can I make this big for you guys? Damn, it's hard. There we go. So basically, we talked about the sedation prison, okay? The truth is a national... Okay, yeah, I know how to talk about this now. The truth is a national security secret. Anybody read that in the Cassandra algorithm one that came after? Damn, I talk about heavy topics, so if you haven't read them, it's rough. I can go over it quick. Oh my God. Talk about the Cassandra algorithm here, which is pretty much the idea that the very act of telling the truth has for a very long time in human history has had a connotation that has gone along with it, not for no reason, I feel like, but because of the bad culture we live in where consolidated power has ruled over us for a long time, like centuries and centuries, right? To the point where sometimes it's better to not even say the truth or worry about the truth, because the very act of accepting it as true is more dangerous than the alternative. Like you for example, social stigmas. It's all coming back to me now. So Cassandra was a character in Greek mythology. She was the one for the fall of Troy. She had a blessing that she could always... Oh, she could see the future, but and it was usually tragedies. But no one would ever believe her. That was her like allegory. She wasn't a real person. But it goes to show that there's been stories about how even knowing the truth, people won't listen to you, or it doesn't even matter if you know the truth, if no one else does, rather, because she only knew it because of prophecy, right? She never had evidences. So we have evidence in terms of forensic implications. We have evidence in terms of we know the ideologies of the people. We have evidence in terms of trickle-down economic propaganda and all the lobbying that they do to extract more money from us. We have a lot of evidence, but what we don't have is criminal evidence. So the whole idea that knowing the truth is dangerous, because what are you going to get for it? People are just going to not want to listen to you. It's that kind of idea. But it's worse than that, is what I learned. Oh, I even had examples, right, of people, because I talk about a lot of topics. This was basically a deconstruction of the left versus right distraction. And this person went right into a script talking. But yeah, I've discussed this before, but to remind you, there is a social stigma, I've already kind of touched on that, around conspiracy theories, right? And I've noticed a lot of conspiracy theories are usually tied to really real crimes. And so, like, for instance, there's a conspiracy right now, Netanyahu's dead or whatever. Well, Israel and America are pretty much committing war crimes, and the conspiracy is there to obfuscate people's focus and have them climb down rabbit holes instead of talking about the truth, which isn't necessarily illegal, but maybe if that was all we talked about, we'd get mad about it. But so, like, you go back in all these conspiracy theories, the theories aren't necessarily true, and I don't even think a lot of them are true, but what we do know is that there are convictions made that go beyond the standard narratives, but those stories are always way quieter, and it's all taboo talking about it. That's the social fringe. If you want to track power, you have to dabble in conspiracy territories, and that's dangerous for your social standing. Now, I don't recommend everybody do it, because if you're not practicing media literacy, it can be hard to determine what's a receipt and what's a report. Yeah, pass these examples. Malinformation. So basically, the whole idea that I have a graphic somewhere too. I think I put it here. No. I know where I put it. I put it here. Yeah. So there was an academic study. It was definitely not just like a group of students. It was like a serious think tank of academics. They created a new way of classifying information because the fake news was getting so big. And this is 2017, right? And so these guys came out with this method of misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. They map it all out, and there's more details to it. This gives you a good idea, though. Basically, misinformation is classified as false and not harmful, and a lot of it is used by the government. The government allows misinformation for the most part. And it's what they consider not harmful. So, like, Israel misinformation, you know what I mean? To them, they don't think that's harmful. So that falls under misinformation. Disinformation is false and harmful. So that would be a lot of the COVID stuff, even though there was some COVID stuff that fell under malinformation. And this is where we get to the COVID conspiracy, which I don't even want to talk about too much because we're past that, I fucking hope. And there was a time where the media didn't want to discuss the fact that for certain people with a certain condition, the one variant of the vaccine made their blood clots guaranteed, well, not guaranteed, but a high percentage chance of death. And a lot of people died who had that condition, and no one was talking about it. And people start making crazy connections because there's no official source. That was treated as malinformation, the fact that all those people died because of the vaccine. And that's where we get a whole bunch of conspiracies. It wasn't that the vaccine was killing a lot of people, the most people. It was extremely harmful to one group of people with the disease, but they still tried to cover it up. They called it malinformation. And they told people not to talk about it. And basically, they can call anything malinformation up to it's a classifier, right? I don't even understand. I didn't get into how does language evolve with law, right? All of a sudden they have new classifiers. So they all look at these classifiers as they assess the laws as they're written. All of a sudden, without any laws passed. That's how language controls our fucking world, man. But that's the sedation engine. My next series, I'm not going to make an article this big. Where is it? This big. I know it's a lot and it's great. I'm going to split it up into 4 smaller ones. And it's going to be hopefully the more uplifting part. That's why I want to split it up, because we need some more uplifting. We reframe escapism. The Rust stigmatized it as wasting time, and that's like what I'm doing now. A lot of people might say, "Oh, you're wasting time." I'm not wasting time. They just want to keep me on the production line. Active escapism is deep lore, high trust gaming, and feeling like you're in your sanctuary. It actually replenishes your neurological bandwidth that the sedation prison stole. It's not a retreat. It's the forge where you repair the armor. Now, that's the first one is about strategic escapism, or the cognitive forge. The next one is the trickster's gambit, which basically is the primary mechanism of modern control, being how everybody agrees on what's the same. My buddy and Empathic Revolutionary brought this up in the Common Knowledge Threshold, an article on my publication. I don't think he gave it that name though, but it's the idea that it's pretty much the opposite of convergence. So if you attack the system with righteous anger, they already have a way to dismiss you. Like if I was just yelling about anything, honestly. If I wasn't talking about politicians and how I would vote in the system, and like obviously I vote, but that's not the kind of focus I think we need, because we need to unite as people, and we're all in this misinformation, malinformation, disinformation. If you attack the cognitive dissonance with more cognitive dissonance, and that look, like I use anime characters. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. It bypasses people's like firewalls. You got to imagine you see a guy on the side of the road and he's selling you stuff. The way he's dressed, right? It's going to be how you deal with him. But if he acts extremely absurd, then the expectations Usually you get scared, to be honest, but that's kind of the point. It's about not playing into the game, but doing it in a way that's not destructive, right? Playfulness. It's the act of refusal, if that makes sense. Tactical frivolity, which is basically, oh, that's not what I remember it being. Oh, subversive humor. Yeah, that's why I don't remember. Because I didn't know if I wanted to write about it. It'll be touchy because basically what I'm going to be claiming is that hostility is necessary. It doesn't need to be violent or destructive. It can go there. But that's kind of what the idea of being subversive with your humor. It's like you're definitely not acting dangerous, if you know what I mean. Basically, I'm teaching you guys ways to normalize the idea of not going by living your day by day the way we have been with our social interactions, because I know for the most part, most people don't even talk about politics because that's what's normal. You're not supposed to. Or just like, you only talk about it on Substack in your social groups. But we need to be talking about these things, and we have to have fun doing it. Because if you're not having fun doing it, it's never going to work, because you're just going to break. I feel like I'm ranting. And then hopefully we can all converge on that. It's a work in progress, but I actually have research papers into it, which I think is pretty interesting. Let's see. There we go. I'm so disorganized. Yeah. When I finish the articles, it'll make more sense. I really wouldn't be able to do any of this without AI. I have such a... Yo, I literally had an IQ test like 4 or 5 years ago. And I remember getting the IQ test back, and the guy who... I forget what... He's like the doctor. And I got a good IQ, but it wasn't like crazy high. But the big point was that when I looked at it, and he knew exactly what we were going to talk about when I walked in there, was that my IQ would be way higher if I had better executive functioning skills. Like, everything tanks. My executive functioning skills tanked everything. Like, I just did so bad on them. And like that's what organizing is, and writing giant articles is. Yes, I love the comedy. If I don't laugh at a joke, just know I'm probably way too tired. I have research on 1773 too. Maybe I should just go to bed and live stream again tomorrow, explain it. I'm so tired. I forgot where I put it. Bump, bump, bump. Okay, yeah. I'll be more organized. And I think Anthony might join us tonight. He's another one of our authors. So yeah, I'll live stream again tonight. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, I've actually been on for almost 3 hours. I probably won't post the video to Substack if you want to watch the whole thing, but it will be on YouTube or Rumble, depending on which one you like. I try to not post the live streams that aren't focused to Substack because there's already so many emails. And yeah, I wrote 2 members only articles recently because they're not about the state of the world. If it's an important thing about the world, it's always free. It's about the state of me, I guess, in work. But that's how you can support me, because we gotta make all the good information free. So have a good one, guys. Go paid if you can. Appreciate it.